AI app builders are everywhere right now, and everyone's claiming that you can go from an idea to a full product in just minutes. Well, today I want to actually test that. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing MeDo to Lovable head to head to see which one really delivers when you try to build real applications, not just simple demos. Now I'm going to be running the same prompts through both of these tools and judging them based on speed, how complete the output is, how close the result is to something you could actually push into production, and how much it costs to run through these tools. I'm going to be trying to give as fair of a comparison as I possibly can, and I'm going to use a simple set of metrics across all of the tests that I do. So first, we're going to look at completeness. So are we just getting a front end, or are we getting a front end, back end, database, things that actually connect together when we try to build, for example, a full stack app? Second, integration support. So are these working with plugins, APIs, external services? Does it work with Stripe, for example? That's one of the major tests we're going to look at. Then there's a big one. How close is the result to a production-ready app? So how many bugs are there? Do I need to go back and forth with a lot of prompts, etc.? And then finally, I want to look at the cost. So not just the pure subscription price, but how many credits it actually takes to build something and what that translates to in dollars. Because I found that after working with a lot of these tools, oftentimes you'll get a similar result from the LLM because a lot of times they're using the same models in the back end. However, the cost can be very different depending on how they've set up the credits, their billing, their subscriptions, etc. So with that said, let's dive into it and let me introduce the two tools that we'll be comparing. So the first tool that we'll have a look at here is Lovable. Now I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this, but this is a no-code AI app builder where you can go in here, you can type something like, hello, build me this, whatever, and it goes ahead and builds it. It has the ability to build full stack applications as well. It can connect to databases, it can connect to GitHub, very popular, but also quite expensive, as you're going to see in this video. And then the second tool that we're going to be having a look at is a newer tool that was recently released called MeDo. Now, full disclosure, MeDo did reach out to me to make this video. However, they didn't tell me anything I need to say in the video. They purely said, just compare us to some other tools out there and tell us what you think, be 100% honest. That's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. Now, MeDo is very similar to Lovable. However, it is a little bit cheaper, as you're going to see as we go through some of the examples. It's meant to be more beginner friendly, have more built-in integrations, and be capable of building larger full stack applications, whereas Lovable focuses a lot on the design and the aesthetics. MeDo focuses more on the logic and actually building something that is more complete and that has all of those connections, the databases, the backend, all of that kind of stuff. So let's see if that's true in this video. Now, if you want to sign up for either of these platforms, I will leave links in the description. Both of them have free credits. And that's actually the first thing that I want to start with, is how you can use these for free so you can play around with them and see if you like them. So with MeDo, when you sign up with a free account, you don't need a credit card or anything, you get 300 credits for free. Now, in order to generate an application and run a query to MeDo, that costs 15 credits. So you can actually create quite a few things in this free plan. And anytime you sign in, so every single day you sign in, you get additional free credits. So if we just look at the credit earning rules here, you can see you get 300 credits when you create a new user. If you log in, you get 100 credits. So it's every single day you can get up to 100 additional credits to use. For every user you invite, you can get 300 credits up to 3,000 per day. And then it shows you the cost for doing some of these different operations, right? So it's very transparent and you know exactly how much it's going to cost. Now with Lovable, if you create a free account, you get 5 free credits to start. And then I believe every day you sign in, you get an additional 5 free credits. So that's kind of how it works. Now the credits do not directly compare because the Lovable credits are more valuable than the MeDo credits because you use less of them when you're generating an app. However, I'm going to go through a cost analysis at the end of the video so you can see how much credits actually cost you if you were paying for them and how much it costs to generate an application on both of these platforms. Okay. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start running the first prompt through these tools. The first thing I want to do is just try to generate a really simple landing page, so just purely front end, and see how these platforms handle that. All right, so on my screen, I have a super simple prompt, build a clean, modern front end for a SaaS landing page called Focus Flow. I go through a few requirements, nothing too complex. I just want to see what these platforms do with something basic like this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this into both MeDo as well as Lovable. I'll quickly show you the process, then let's look at the finished result. So let's start with MeDo here. What I'll do is I'll just paste this in. When I do that, it's going to think for a second and it's going to start generating a README file with a plan for what it's going to create. So you can see that it's created this requirements file that's a little bit more in depth from what I gave it. Now at this point, what I can do is edit this if I want to, right? So I can just directly change it, or I can just go ahead and press on generate app. So I'm going to go ahead and press on continue, and then it's going to start generating the front end for me. Now let's go over to Lovable and let's do the same thing. So from Lovable, I can paste in the prompt. I can also attach some kind of theme. So that's something a little bit different. We don't have that in MeDo, at least I haven't seen that. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and let's see Lovable here start tackling this task. Okay, and there we go. It is now creating the application for us. So let's wait for those to finish, and then I'll be right back and we'll review them. All right, so the front end was just generated for us in MeDo here. Let's have a look at the finished result. So it's showing me a preview on the left-hand side. It also shows me the chat window on the right-hand side. So you can see what happened, all of the tasks that were being ran through. And then if we want, we can have a look at the document, right? What was generated, as well as we can see all of the code. If we want to download that code, we can do that from this button right here. We can also clear the chat, go into the settings, change things like the title, description, etc. Things like the PC cover, mobile cover, all of that stuff is generated for us. Let's close that out. We also can go to plugins. In this case, there's no plugins being used. We have any backend service, which in this case is not enabled because we just generated the front end, and then data analysis, which we'll be able to see if we deployed this application out. We also can see any different pages from up here. So you can see this is kind of like the navigation bar. And if I want, I can make this full screen. I can do a visual edit by pressing on this button and then just selecting something that I want to directly change on the UI. And then if I want, I can go to preview and I can open this in a full preview view. So I can see exactly what it looks like kind of full screen in my browser. So let's actually have a look at it here. All right, so we have the focus flow landing page. Nothing too complex, just nice and simple. Has the pricing, can change between monthly and annual. Has a few reviews here, and then we have kind of this like start now email box, which is not functioning because we didn't ask it to do that, as well as some hyperlinks, and we just try these buttons here. We can see it navigates us on the page. So that's pretty much it. This was just a basic prompt. I just wanted to see how it handled a pure UI and front end. Now it did do everything that I asked for. It's given me a pretty minimalistic look here. It hasn't gone crazy with all of the styling or the looks. This only took a few minutes to generate. And like I said, it cost 15 credits. And then if I wanted to, I could go here and I could add an image or tell it, hey, I want to change something, blah, blah, blah. And it could change that. Cool. So now let's go have a look at Lovable and see what it generated with the exact same prompt. So this is the version that we get with Lovable. You can see it looks very similar, called Focus Flow. We have kind of watch demo, though I don't think that works, trusted by teams, everything you need to stay focused. We have the pricing. However, it didn't give me the annual switching, has some reviews like the other one, and then same thing, kind of like a enter your email box as well as the footer. Now I will say with this one, it looks a little bit more colorful. You know, it added a few more styles than MeDo did. However, overall, they both accomplished the goal. If I press these buttons, they work. And for creating a really simple landing page, they did these extremely quickly and really didn't struggle with them at all. They took a very similar amount of time to complete this. And if you've worked in Lovable before, you know that you can view the GitHub integration, right? You can publish the site directly. You can ask for additional things, just like MeDo. You can do the visual edit here if you want. You can add in images, right? Take screenshots, chat with the model, etc. Now, in terms of credits used, this one used 2.4 credits. So if we're comparing that to our free credits, that's approximately half of the credits that we had. Whereas with MeDo, again, that used 15 credits to generate the project. 15 over 30, that's, I don't know, not even, we would be able to do this like 16, 17 more times. So it is significantly more expensive to use Lovable to achieve a very similar result as it is for MeDo. Now, anyways, this was just a simple prompt. Now let's move on to something a little bit more complex, where we're going to use a backend, front end database and see what we get from that. So the next prompt I have is a lot more complex, where I'm asking this to build a full stack SaaS web application called Team Pulse. Now I want user authentication, organizations and teams, and then multiple roles, admin and member. I want permissions. I have functionality of being able to create tasks for different projects, kind of like Notion or something, or like a task board like Asana. I want to have a dashboard so we can see all of the stuff for each team. I want to have billing, so a Stripe integration where we can actually pay to upgrade the plan. I want to have front end, back end, database connectivity, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so now we're going from just simple UI to full stack application. I'm going to paste this again, both into MeDo and Lovable. I will skip that process because you've already seen what that looks like, and let's see the result that we get. Okay, so both of these tools have finished generating the app. Now I have to be transparent that there was a few bugs and I was just walking through them. And you can see in this case with MeDo, I ended up giving this 9 more prompts in order to get it to fully finish and fix at least most of the bugs that I was able to find. And then if we have a look, let's go over here with Lovable, you can see it's generated the project as well. And same thing, if we go through here, you can see I gave it a bunch of other prompts. I think very similar, about 7, 8 more prompts to fix some of the bugs that were popping up with the tool. However, with Lovable, I'm still getting an issue with the billing, whereas I was able to get that to work in MeDo. So I'm not giving up on it, but just sharing my transparent process that when I tried to generate these websites, the first prompt got me 95% of the way there, but as I kind of combed through the tool, there's some small bugs and issues that I did need to fix. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the product that I got to, or the stage I got to with both of these tools. Let's have a look at it and let's see. All right, so let's have a look at the finished apps here. Now I just had to run one more prompt in this one because there was some issue with the Stripe payment, but it actually is working now. And I'll just quickly show you that if I go to billing and I press on upgrade now, it should actually open a Stripe page for us that will show us the ability to pay. So you can see it actually opens us up. It's using the integration and then says I can pay $1 right to upgrade the account. I'm not going to do that for right now because I don't want to actually pay $1, but we have the ability to do that. Cool, so let's pop this out into preview mode. Let's start going through some of the other features that it has, and then we will compare it to what Lovable generated. So like I said in the prompt, I wanted to create kind of a team-based task dashboard. So you can see I have a dashboard right here for my view. I can view projects, manage organizations, upgrade my plan. Let's go into the projects. You can see I have a project here for website redesign. It also says the free plan allows 1 project. If we want more than 1, I need to upgrade and the limit is reached. If I go into this project, you can see I have some different tasks. I can refresh. I can change the progress of the task to a different thing like done, in progress, etc. And if I want, when I create the task, I can assign it to a specific member. Let's go to the admin panel. From here, I can manage users, so I can see the different users that are in my organization. Because this is a free account, I only have 1 user. If I upgraded, then I could have more than 1 user, and I can change between the user interface and the admin panel here. In this admin panel here, I'm able to view some content in my database, so I can see the user and the time that they registered. Okay, pretty cool. So that is what MeDo was able to generate for us. Again, it worked with the Stripe integration. And if I go back here and I go to backend services, for example, so here we can view the whole database schema. I didn't need to set anything up. It just automatically did this for me. I can view the secrets. I can view the different users that I have. And then if I go to plugins, we can see that it's automatically connected a Stripe integration. Now, when I created this, it did ask me for a Stripe key. I just simply gave it the key in the chat, and then it automatically configured that for me. And if I want, I can go and change the settings and change the Stripe key that is right here. Cool, so that's MeDo. Now let's move over here and have a look at what Lovable generated. Okay, so Lovable, very similar to MeDo, was able to generate this. Like I was saying, it did require a few more prompts to get it working, and I still have not gotten the payments working. For example, if I press this upgrade to Pro button here, which is one of the core features, there's some error. I've tried to fix this multiple times, but it's not been working. But let's go through the rest of the stuff that we have here. So we have settings, so I can see my profile, my organization. I can view my team, so you can see team, and then I can invite member. This actually shouldn't be allowing me to invite a member right now because I'm on the free plan. However, it is showing that window. I can view tasks that are assigned to me. So it's a little bit different than what I had in the other view. Same thing, you can see that I have kind of this project limit reached. If I go into the project, you can see I have a few different, kind of categories here. So I can say, hello world, assign this to a member, and then change, the due date or something, add a description. So it's added a few more details than MeDo did for this specific prompt. However, this is taking a long time to load, so hopefully that's going to work. Okay, and there we go. We can see that we have the task, and then I can move this to a different category, and then it updates the UI. Now, if I go to the dashboard, you can see I have a dashboard that kind of shows me the information. And compared to MeDo, I would say that this one is a little bit more complete in terms of the styles. That's kind of one thing I noticed with Lovable, is that it does go a little bit more all out in terms of using its own liberties to kind of make a more complete front end or something that just looks a little bit better, at least in my not very great design opinion. Whereas MeDo kind of gives you more of like a wireframe based template, still presentable, but you kind of need to give it more instructions on what you want it to do in terms of the styling, which I believe is intentional. It also uses a lot less credits when it does that generation. So overall, we have a very similar kind of output. However, one thing to note here is that if I go to the credit usage here, so let me go to, settings, you can see that this used 12 credits. So I actually attempted to do this on my original Lovable free account, which just had 5 credits. It's a new account I made for this video. However, I ran out after the first prompt, so I had to actually change over to this other account that I have on Lovable, which has a bunch of credits that Lovable gave me for free. So 12 credits means this would have taken me 2.5 days if I was just on the free plan to actually be able to create it. Whereas with MeDo, I ended up using about 100 credits for that project in terms of all of the revisions that I was going back and forth with, but that's still only 33% of the amount that I get in the free plan. So just something to note there. Now, in terms of completeness, like I said, I would say this is slightly more complete in terms of the kind of UI and the way that it looks, but in terms of overall functionality, very similar between the two. And the one major thing again that I notice is the cost, where Lovable is significantly more expensive. In this case, we're talking about 4, 5, 6 times more expensive in terms of credits if we're comparing them based on the value of a credit across both platforms. Okay, so for the next test, I want to build something even more complex, and I'm actually going to go with a browser-based game. So what I did here is I used ChatGPT to generate a pretty advanced prompt that asks this to build a game called Neon Drift Survival Arena, essentially a top-down 2D arena using some kind of canvas or WebGL that allows you to move around and avoid different obstacles with things like power-ups, dash, shield, slowing time, etc., a scoring system, and then progression, where we can upgrade different stats of the user, like their movement speed and all of that other stuff. So I put a bunch of things here, and I'm going to give this to both of the tools, and let's see what they can do. All right, so same thing here. Let's start with MeDo. You can see that this is what it's giving us. So kind of like a menu UI system here explaining how to play. Now I'm just gonna go to the full screen preview, which looks like this. So we can see it a little bit better. We can see we have obstacles. We see the controls that we can use for power-ups and how to move. Here it explains what the power-ups do. I can go don't show again or got it. We have a shop where I can upgrade different stats of mine. I can go to the ranks and I can see a leaderboard with different waves and scores the users have, and you can see it's kind of like a cool background. And sorry, I was just turning my volume down here because that was super loud, but it has sound effects, so let's play again. Let's move around and let's see what we can do. Now this is extremely hard the way that it's set this up because the obstacles like follow you, but you can see that I can like slow the time down, I can enable my magnet, I can dash around with space. I currently have a shield active, you can see it on the top, so if I get hit, you can see, let's get hit again, it kind of uses my shield. We have like bombs going off, some decent animations, and you guys should be able to hear the sound effects right now. And it is progressively, it seems like, getting a little bit more difficult as I keep playing here. Let's slow the time down and keep going. One thing I'm noticing is that the score is not really updating, and there we go. Okay, so this, for some reason the final score is not working, which we'd have to prompt it to give us. Gives us the time survived, and you know, we could enter the high score and continue. And then let's go here and shop, and we could upgrade our player movement speed, and you can see that we kind of have that progression which I asked for. Cool. So that is MeDo. Overall, very complete, I would say. Again, few small bugs, but we could iron those out if we were going through the prompting. Now, this did require a few other prompts. Same thing. There was a few small bugs that made this unplayable right on the first initial prompt. But overall, similar to the other project, this cost me about 100 credits in additional prompting and kind of fixing up some of the bugs. And you can see that, you know, it's working, it's good. And overall, I would say it's pretty complete and generated pretty quickly. Now, let's go over to Lovable and see what it was able to generate. All right, so we're here in Lovable, and very similar thing to MeDo. This required a few less prompts to get it fully operational, but you can see we have Neon Drift. We have kind of like a menu because I was testing this before. We have the leaderboard, which I can view. We have settings, so that's something that I didn't have in the other one, but also that I didn't ask for, where we can like turn stuff off, show tutorial, change some of these sound effects. We have the upgrade shop, so you can see we have a few, different things that we can pay for and equip and start with, etc. Then let's go and view the preview. So let's pop this out and let's start playing this game. So if I go start game, brings me through a quick tutorial. Let's go start playing. And then you can see this is what it looks like. Now, unlike the other one, it doesn't show me the power up commands on screen. So it's a little bit more confusing for me to see which ones I'm using or not. But I have that dash effect. Okay, you can see I smashed into one of those things. Okay, and it kind of like shakes the screen. We have the score going up. We have the lives in the bottom left. We have the sound effects. And the only thing I'm not really understanding is how some of the other power-ups work. I think I need to maybe collect them on screen. And then there you go. It gives us kind of this final menu bar and tells us, this is what happened. So overall, very similar performance to MeDo. One thing I would say is that this obviously is a different design. Some people may prefer this to the MeDo one. Like I noticed, Lovable does typically give me a better design output from the UI side, but it seems like MeDo just follows exactly what you tell it to do, whereas Lovable kind of, again, takes a lot of its own liberties and goes a little bit crazier and kind of doing the design and adding features, and you have to be a little bit careful if you're in a bigger app there. I'm also noticing this main menu button isn't working, so that's another prompt we would have to do to fix it, and even the play again button isn't working. So okay, so that means we would have to just restart it from here. But overall, I would say pretty good. We can purchase those upgrades. They don't really make sense with the number of coins, but that's fine. They also seem to be going up in kind of like weird ways, but generally working pretty well. Okay, so at this point, I've ran the tools through 3 different prompts in kind of varying difficulty levels, doing different types of tasks. Generally speaking, we've got a very similar performance in terms of time, as well as what was being generated, and both tools are clearly very capable of generating full stack applications and following the instructions that we give it. Like I mentioned, the one thing I noticed is that Lovable gives a slightly more kind of like stylistic UI, whereas MeDo follows the instructions very clearly and does exactly what you tell it to do, which is good. In a lot of cases, especially if you're building something larger where you don't want it to kind of stray off, whereas Lovable, again, takes a lot of its liberties. Now, the main thing that I want to talk about here is the cost. So let's go and have a look at the cost of Lovable versus the cost of MeDo, because we get a very similar experience. So the main way that I think we really need to compare them is by looking at the price for what it is that you actually get. So if we have a look here at upgrading to Pro in Lovable, you can see that you can pay $25 per month for 100 credits. And then you can get more credits per day, same as the free plan, right? And if you go up, it just kind of doubles the amount you have to pay if you want to get more credits. So 800, 1200, 2000, etc. And there's no way to just buy additional credits. You have to be on one of these plans and then you get them per month. The reason I have all of these credits here is because the Lovable company just gave me more credits on my account because I worked with them in the past. Okay, now let's have a look at MeDo. So with MeDo, we can see it's a lot simpler when we start looking at the plans and all of the credits. And if we scroll down here, you have the option to buy different credits. You can see it pretty much just doubles as you go up. And for $20, you're getting 2,000 credits. So already the base price is $5 cheaper, and you're getting obviously a lot more credits than with, Lovable. However, we need to compare the credits based on how much it actually is worth in the platform, because these platforms can use whatever number they want for the credits, but if they consume more than the other, how do we know what is worth which? Well, what I did just for a quick analysis here to see how much a credit is actually worth or how much it costs us to buy something in one of these platforms is I looked at how many credits it costs us to generate a simple app on MeDo versus how many credits it costs us to generate a simple app on Lovable. So the first landing page that you looked at in Lovable, that cost us 2.4 credits. Now that means that if we were paying for those credits, that would have cost us approximately 63 cents. Now with MeDo, it's a lot simpler for me to do the calculation actually, because if you look at the math here, 1 credit is approximately 1 cent. That's just how it works out if you're paying $20 for 2,000 credits. And when I generated the small app, the exact same one that I did in Lovable, that cost me 15 credits, which equates to 15 cents. So roughly speaking, with MeDo, because it's a very similar performance tool to Lovable, it's 4 times cheaper, actually slightly more than 4 times cheaper than using Lovable for the exact same result. That's just how it worked out. I'm not making up those numbers. That's just what it was in terms of the number of credits. So not only with this one do you get more free credits to start, but the credits go further and they cost less. So if you're using MeDo, you can expect just a higher performance per price. So Lovable would be a very, very expensive option compared to something like this. So there you go, guys. That is going to wrap up this video. Overall, both of these tools are great. If you want like a really beautiful front-end UI, I would probably lean towards Lovable. If you're making something a little bit more complex and you're going to be doing a lot of prompting, you're going to be using a lot of credits, then go with MeDo because it's going to be significantly cheaper. And again, you get almost an identical result to something like Lovable, especially if you're doing this over a lot of iterations and working with this tool. So with that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.